Past customers, marketing sources, what should you track? How should you track it? That's what we're covering in today's video. So if you are a marketing director or looking to optimize your marketing tracking and analytics for a painting company or other home service business, you're going to want to watch this conversation with me and Nathan Tenopole, the owner of Select Painting and Select Concrete Coatings and the newest member of our Boolean team as we discuss this topic. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Chris. I'm the owner of Boolean Automation, where we free you up to do what you love. We specifically work with painting contractors, painting businesses to automate their business processes, eliminate data entry, and streamline decision-making by making reports more accessible, real-time reporting, and whatnot. So if you're a painter, you came to the right place. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into this conversation. All right, so past customers. We are going to be talking about that today. I'm here with Nathan Tenopole from, where are you from, Nathan?
I live in Kansas City. I'm from South Dakota.
Okay.
Mount Rushmore State.
And you've got some experience in the painting world. Tell us about that.
Started as a painter when I was 20 years old in 2011 as a summer job. Came back, was a returner the following year as a foreman, and then that fall bought into the business. The guy who had started it put himself through college and then seminary, and then me and my current partner, bought the business from him in 2013 and have been running that business ever since. Started as a residential repaint summer business, and then added year-round interior. 2016 added commercial, started working with general contractors. 2020 added concrete coatings onto the list of services, and are dabbling in cabinets and have a branch in Kansas City that we're actually working on selling right now to one of our guys down here.
And so you're now going to be doing the sales development for Boolean, which is exciting. So this is our first of many conversations probably around these types of topics. But so as far as past customers go, my belief is that it is a really dumb thing to track on as a source specifically. So what I would be like, there's people that disagree, or I would say, I think more common than disagreeing is there's people that are just like, no, they were a past customer. That's why they came to us. And that's what I want to challenge, the thinking behind that. And I would love for you to poke holes in this, in my thought process, basically. But the main thing I would say is, on your web form or even in your CRM system, I do not think that in the category that you title as marketing source or lead source, that past customer should be an option in that thing. What I would say, I do think that you should track past customer for every single deal, but I think that should be a separate property. And I don't think it belongs in the lead source as far as why somebody reached out.
Okay. Why not?
So, because that's not, I would say, if someone, I'm coming from the perspective of being the marketing manager and trying to figure out where to allocate my dollars. And actually, I would say, in order to answer that question, this is a great question for people listening. My question to you, Nathan, would be, why, when you were running a painting business, and speaking for all painting owners out there, why do you track marketing sources to begin with?
Yeah,
what's the purpose of doing it?
You want to know, I mean, you're going to be putting your dollars into certain channels, and marketing is all about getting the highest return for your dollar. Every dollar you put in, you want to get 10 to 20 to $30 out. And the data is valuable, whether it's a Yellow Pages ad or a Facebook ad or a rehash campaign or whatever it may be. That data is helpful in knowing what's working and what's not.
So I think I would agree, or I'm going to restate it, but basically the data is helpful because at some point you're going to have more money to spend, or you're going to need more leads, and you're trying to decide, where can I most effectively allocate this additional money to generate as many leads as possible, as many of my ideal leads as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I would say the way that I think about, like, again, literally because you're saying, and I would agree with this, I'm just, for everybody else out there, the reason that you're tracking lead sources to begin with is to figure out where to allocate your marketing funds. So it's important to distinguish between what I would call organic lead sources, which don't cost you anything or are not, they're not marketing dollars that you spend, versus paid or non-organic lead sources that you are, you know, like, I'm putting money into Google, and I can put money into Google, and Google gives me leads. And if theoretically, if I have my campaign set up correctly, if I put more money into Google, more leads come out, right? Maybe it's not linear, but same thing with Facebook, you know, Nextdoor, Yelp, all the paid sources, paid things out there. Those are all paid marketing sources that when you need leads, you can put more money into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the other piece of it is like, okay, so what are the types of lead sources that you could possibly have besides, is there anything else besides organic and paid? And in my mind, I would say there are five, and that is, you have organic, you have paid, you have events, which are, they're paid, but it's different than like Google and Facebook, because events are at specific times and they don't happen every day. Sometimes they're only
Mm-hmm.
twice a year or once a year if it's a home show or something. And then you have prospecting, which is
Mm-hmm.
people's time. And then there's another one that I would say is a
Mm-hmm.
mixture of paid and organic. So it's ones that, like, it's kind of paid, but it's also organic. So I have that fifth one is just kind of like, when we're disagreeing on whether something is fully paid or fully organic, we just throw it into that category. But those are the five in my mind of, you have organic, paid, events, prospecting, and paid and organic. Do you have, or any clarifications, or is there any other type of lead source besides those that you can think of?
No, I don't. I haven't. We haven't tracked it that way, so I'm with you. I think that covers all of the types.
And so with that, I would then say, like, uh, once you've identified those types, my point again with this whole reason for tracking is that all of the organic stuff is interesting to know how many we're getting from organic sources. But at the end of the day, I can't really do much to generate, um how do I say this? Again, let's say that we're heading into winter and it's like, hey, things are slowing down. We need to spend more money and get leads in the door. If I was like, Nathan, I need you to get me more past customers, you know, you can't, like, what are you going to do that? You can't just like snap your fingers or write a check to nothing. What you would, I mean, give me ideas of what you would do if you
Yeah,
wanted to get more past customers.
I would reach out to my customer list, the people that I've worked for, and have some sort of an offer through email and text. And I suppose you could do a campaign on Facebook with the list. You could you could call them.
Right.
There's a handful of things you could do to reach out, but that's what you would do.
And so I love that, because I would say all of those things, those the secondary activities that you're
Mm-hmm.
saying. So it's like, hey, we want to get more past customers. Let's go do some paid types of, or let's do some non-organic types of marketing activities. Because
Mm-hmm.
organic is like, literally, I'm sitting here and someone knocks on my door and says, or someone rings my doorbell, which I'm assuming is what's ringing.
Someone is at the
Someone
front door.
someone
You
rings the
hear
doorbell and
that?
says
Thanks,
like,
Rainy.
hey, I want to work with you, right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do anything. Like, on one hand, I didn't do anything, but what I did was I had a brand, and I do, you know, X amount of revenue every year. And
Mm-hmm.
because I do that much revenue, I have trucks that are branded driving around town, and I have yard signs out, and people are seeing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, it's organic, because in me operating a professional painting business, I am organically going to get people that just reach out and ask me and say, hey, I want to
Mm-hmm.
work with you. But as far as giving useful information to your marketing team, saying like, hey, we had 20 past customers last month, I do need to know how many we had so we can forecast in the future, hey, we probably will get 20 in the future as well. But what really matters is what were the marketing activities that your team was doing that we should keep doing or do more of because it's efficient.
Hmm.
And then, in particular, if you're talking about like email or text or whatever, those are like the reality is those are very inexpensive lead sources, like email and
Hmm.
text in particular. But it does take, there's a maybe a MailChimp subscription or a HubSpot subscription or something that you have to pay in order to effectively email people. For texting, you've got, your pennies that you pay to send out text messages and the software that you're using to do that. So I would
Hmm.
say all of those should be in those particular lead sources because that's the cost of doing that, right?
Hmm.
Um, but that's my thinking behind all this is like if someone called me and I was like, hey, what made you reach out today? And they were like, oh, you painted my house 4 years ago. Like, I want to know, are they calling in because of an offer that our team sent them via email? Did they see an ad on Facebook? Like, give me something of substance so that I
Hmm.
can tell our marketing team, hey, those Facebook ads that we feel like never give us anything? Well, they're actually returning past customers to us very effectively. So we
Hmm.
should do more of that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that's my yeah, I'd say that's my thought process behind all of this is anything that is quote unquote organic, like I saw your trucks around town.
Hmm.
My thought is, why are you like, if you have that as a lead source in your marketing budget or in your reporting, right? If like the ones that I hate are saw your trucks, yard signs, you painted my neighbor's house. I don't know what, there's literally, these are things that I see in a list of lead sources with like 60 lead sources. And it's like, think about that from the marketing's perspective. So we're sitting down at the table and it's like, hey, so we got 5 leads last week from people seeing our vans. Nice. Okay, cool. And then it's like, so are you going to go like just tell your painters to take the long way to the job to try to get more eyeballs on your van? Like, what are you going to do? You're just going to keep operating your business. So again, I would say it's not that I don't care how many people saw your trucks. I feel like subconsciously owners are like, should I wrap my vehicles? Maybe that's why they're tracking it. Like, was it a good investment to spend 4 grand on my vehicle wrap? And I would say the answer is listen to the research and the data from the last 700,000 years in business and say, yes, you should wrap your vehicles because it makes you look professional at price conditions and people see it and they call you because of it. So that's just a brand expense that you pay because you're a professional entity and you're going to do that. And so, anyways, I could go on, but that's my thought with the what lead sources when you're talking about organic or paid you should be tracking and why.
So, how many categories do you recommend having when a lead comes in? Because you talked about these five, which are separate
Those
things.
are
I don't know if
types
that's like,
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
types. And then you talked about, I'm assuming in those types, there's two or three or four different things in each of those things. We talked about some of the options and what they might be. And then we also talked about like it'd be nice to know too if it's a previous customer or not, right? So
Yep.
that's another thing, right?
Yep.
So how many pieces of data should be collected on a lead?
Yeah. I would say from the sources, my favorite or my suggested way is to take all of the organic stuff and just throw it into one big bucket that I call brand. So it's like literally anything this is like I saw your trucks,
Is word of mouth in there?
word of
You painted
mouth.
my neighbor's house. You painted my mom's
Yeah,
house.
but I would say depending on the referral structure. So like if you get referrals occasionally, but you don't really have a referral program,
Hmm.
I would say put referrals into brand. If you have a referral program where you're like giving out gift cards and stuff to people, I would say you should track that as a referral lead source. So instead of picking brand, if someone was like, "Oh, Susan told me to call you guys," I'd be like, "Great, I'm going to write down Susan's name and we can say thanks to her." Like
Hmm.
if you do a program like that, put that into a separate referral thing. If 6% of your marketing budget or more of your marketing budget is spent on a particular thing, or if you get 6% of your um, quantity of leads from a particular source, then you should have
Hmm.
that as its own source. Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
like if I'm spending $1,000 a month, if I'm spending $60 or more in a given lead source, I should have that be
Hmm.
its own thing that I'm tracking. And the reason I'm picking
Hmm.
6% is because I think at the end of the day, you should have roughly 7 to 10 lead sources max. And the reason is because we're trying
Hmm.
to go back to the thing of why are we tracking in the first place? We're tracking because we want to give our marketing team levers to pull to make an impact on the business. So then my thought is like obviously you could have 100 or more levers to pull that are like literally percentage individual
Hmm.
percentage points of like, hey, we had a really great campaign
Hmm.
on next door that was like $20 leads, but it provided 3 leads to us. Who cares? We're
Hmm.
25 leads short. We need to like put the money into the things that are going to generate some amount of action. So when it gets really small, and again, I'm saying this, it's a
Hmm.
gray area, so everyone has to decide. But if you're spending more than 6% of your budget on a particular source, like I'm signing up for billboards and I'm going to spend $700 a month or 7,000 a month on billboards, probably track it individually. But
Hmm.
if it's just the
Yeah.
same thing like with the referrals, it's like that uh it's close to a tenth, a little bit less. But if you're spending a tenth of your energy, a tenth of your money, or a tenth of the quantity is coming from something, that's something that I think is worth tracking individually. But what's crazy is that people always will say, "Well, I don't want to lose the clarity. I'm running this magazine ad in this one coupon thing, and I want to see how many leads we get." And so they make their own lead source for the Smart Shopper magazine. And uh, I would
Hmm.
say I would just put that into like a direct mail. That's kind of a catch all for all magazines. And then if you needed to know, like, how did we do in that March
Hmm.
issue of Smart Shopper, then you just go look at the month of March and look at direct mail. And we know that the leads that came in March were from that, if that makes sense. But you want to be able to roll up the data into a greater like into a bucket of
Yeah.
leads, again, for the sake of when we need leads, let's have our marketing team actually have 7 to 10 levers that they can pull to actually make a difference in our marketing. Because I've seen way too much in tracking and analytics and statistics in general. I think people track a lot of things that are interesting but not
Hmm.
actionable. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, check out this cool metric, and it's like, interesting, what are we going to do with that? I don't
Yeah.
know. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. Here's an actionable thing for painting business owners. Have your lead sources be fixed. Like for
mm,
when we first started, people could type in, right? They'd say, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" And then whatever the customer would say gets typed in as the lead source, right?
yes.
And it's like you go to look at data over 2,000 leads and you're like, I don't know, I can't do anything with this. There's 75 different ones, and one of them is Jane's mom, and it's like, who's Jane?
Yeah.
Right? So
Hmm.
yeah, whether it's 7 or 10 or 12, 15 seems like a lot. I like that thinking, but like, fix it. Don't let the person answering the phone freehand type something. I think we
Yeah.
could agree on that for sure.
I
Okay, so
100.
you have your 5 category types, and then you have your 7 to 10. Do those all 7 to 10 fit in those 5 different types? Is that what you're saying, or do you
Oh,
have to
yeah.
like,
So, and I should
or do
say
you have
that
to like choose the type and then
yeah,
choose the?
the type is just for the like seeing how I think about it. It's not actually used in your CRM, the like
Okay,
paid
okay,
event, all that stuff.
yeah,
That's just
right.
like, can we agree on the different types? And then if we are good there, then we actually map out what are the sources. So my starting point for any
Mhm.
business would be you have brand, which is like your catch-all organic leads. You have direct mail, which I would say is anything that is physical. So, flyer, magazine, a mailer, door hangers. I would just put that in direct mail. That's what
Mhm.
I call it, but it's just physical pieces of paper that either show up on their doorstep or in their mailbox. That's direct mail, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Then you have email and text. Again, depending on your sophistication of your marketing team, maybe those are separate. But I feel like at the end of the day, I'm usually do email and text in tangentially or together in tandem. That's the one.
Tandem.
In tandem. And then Facebook and Instagram, separate one. Home show, because that's another one where it's like clearly an event. We want to like
Hmm.
we crushed home shows in my past job,
Hmm.
but you only have them, once a month at the most frequent, and sometimes it was like once a quarter. So it's like we knew we were going to go to that home show every single time, and we got a bigger and bigger booth every year because we just kept crushing it, even though we were spending more. But it
Hmm.
only happens one period. So home show, web search, prospecting, and then TV and radio. And TV and radio, I would put into one again, unless that
Hmm.
6% rule. If you're spending more than 6% of your budget on TV and separately in radio, then make those distinct. But in
Yeah.
general, I think TV and radio are both equally hard to track. You should track it, but it's more of a branding play. And so you're not gonna. It's not like
Hmm.
Facebook and Google where someone clicked and
Yeah.
you've got the digital tracking data. But yeah, that would be my starting point. Is like start with that, and then I would say I'm okay with someone arguing that they need to break out Facebook and Instagram, or they want to make it
Sure.
social media instead and wrap up TikTok in there or something.
Yeah.
But the main point of it is start with a few, and then if necessary, break them out. But the
Okay. So
reason I
where
would
does
say
past customers? So you don't have any previous customer or
it is
past
not a
customer
lead
in
source.
there at
Yeah,
all. So
no.
where do you? But you did say you want to know,
Yeah, so
like for
I have a
repeat
separate
customers.
property, totally separate. That's
Okay.
just is this a previous customer? Question mark. And this is another one that I think is key. It's not a yes or a no. It's yes, we have actually worked with this customer. No, we've bid, but we've never won.
Hmm.
Or we have no history. So it's they're brand new lead, never talked to them. No, they're not a past customer, but they are a past bid recipient or whatever you want to call that. And then yes, they are a past customer. We've won at least one job with them. That's the three that I check. And
Hmm.
we can determine that on our own. Because we have our CRM
Yeah.
with all the data. I'm not relying on the customer to tell me, did we work with you before? I see that we worked with this person before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just mark that in the system. And then that particular deal, that's another thing, is that property needs to be associated with the deal or that opportunity, not the customer level. Like a
Yeah.
person cannot be a past customer. The deal belongs to
Yes.
someone that we have worked with before, or it doesn't.
And does word of mouth? That's just brand,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you don't
And I
track
would
that
say that's
anywhere
again for,
else, or
yeah, for all of these, when people bring up like word of mouth, I'd be like, you could make the argument that any of these things that you're bringing up should be independent sources. But I would again say you have to look at your data and see, this is another big concept, because we're not e-commerce like businesses where we can have digital fingerprints on every single action that someone took in the last 6 months prior to
Mhm.
buying. In
Mhm.
order to get the data, like I always go back from, okay, I'm a marketing manager looking at a report. What happened in the time of me looking at this report and making marketing decisions from the data getting entered into the system? And like even beyond that, like the marketing happening in the real world, someone seeing it, them
Mhm.
articulating what it was that they saw or where they saw it to a person in my office that then has to make a decision on which source to enter into the system. And I think that
Mhm.
the other danger is that when you start getting really, really granular, the reality is that you're ignoring the fact that humans are not perfect. And it's like a classic game of
Yeah.
telephone. And you've got 2 or 3 points of people saying, like, even the magazine thing, like the idea of having one source for every single magazine. I think that you're setting yourself up for failure, because if you're advertising in multiple magazines, I can't tell you how many times that we'd have a receptionist be like, "Oh, you're from a magazine? Which magazine?" And they're like, the coupon book, I don't know. I just know it's $500 or something like that." And sometimes they don't even know the promo, right? So it's like
Mhm.
the reality of, you have to ask yourself, how confident are you that the customer was super articulate and explained it in a way that would not be misunderstood by your receptionist? And how confident are you that your receptionist is like really diving into the weeds on, like, tell me more about this TV commercial you saw? Was it on channel 6, channel 8, or the evening? Like, I just don't
Hmm.
think that that's a realistic expectation, which is, again, the reason why fewer buckets is more realistic,
Yeah.
because especially for larger businesses that have multiple receptionists, these are all things that I actually did. I'm telling you, we'd sit down and be like, all right,
Hmm.
let's listen to this phone call. And the customer's like, I came, or what, like, what made you reach out to us today? And the customer says, oh, I saw you guys on Facebook, and,
Hmm.
whatever. They rattle off a couple things. And then you just pause and you say, everyone write down what source in our system you'd put this lead under. And everyone gives a different source. So it's
Yeah.
like, what it like if you have, and I should say they give a different source when you have 25 sources. But when you consolidate it down to 7 or 10, like a smaller number, these are large buckets that are very hard to get confused. You know, it's like they literally said
Hmm.
Facebook, it goes in social media.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
It's not, or like they said, they mentioned something about a piece of paper that they had in their hand. That's direct mail. Because why? Physical papers are direct mail. Are we good? Like, it's just like you have to simplify it down to increase the confidence that you're actually working with good data, because we're relying on people. And it's not that people are
Yeah.
dumb, it's just that we're people. And we make assumptions when people say, oh, I Googled you or whatever. Like, I've seen some people
Yeah.
that had Google as a source, Bing as a source, Yahoo as a
Hmm.
source. And it's just like, people just say I
Yeah.
Googled you, and they're using DuckDuckGo, but Google is a verb. You know what I mean? So anyways,
Right. Okay, so here's a couple of thoughts that I have. I would say what I hear you saying is previous customer is the most important thing to track because you have a whole separate overarching type. So there's my contrarian argument to you. You say it's not important. I'm saying you're saying it's the most important thing because it's its own thing and it has to be tracked. So track whether or not you're having previous customers. Now, I do like the way that you do it because I think in a lot of ways it makes sense. But at the same time, you do need to know, like, am I getting referrals, or sorry, am I getting people to come back?
yes, yeah,
Right. Because I think that says a lot about people answering the phones and your foreman. And are you offering a good
yeah.
service? Like, you need to know
I
that.
love that.
I
And
think
I would
that's
say,
that's important.
I completely agree with you. It is absolutely essential. I just think it is absolutely stupid to track it as the source. And you're basically giving the customer and your receptionist an out on an opportunity to collect gold. It's like, great, you're a past customer. Why?
Mm,
What did we do that made you reach out? Oh, I've been on your email for, and sometimes we can tell, like, if you have a good system,
yeah.
I can see that they clicked a link, and they
Yeah.
called or they filled out a form from that link. But I do think that what the main thing I'm saying is, do not let someone saying I worked with you before check the box that that's the lead source. At least ask
Yeah.
the question, did you see any of our marketing recently that prompted this call today, or something like that? And
Yeah.
you'll be surprised at how many times people are like, oh yeah, I just got this text from you last night, and I want that winter special that you have. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
I do think a barrier for some people with that could be like, I just want one layer. Like when I'm tracking, I just want one layer of data, right? So previous customers in there for me. Like if you're
Yeah, I
going to
would
have two
say,
layers, then yeah, do have the previous customer be its own layer. But if your systems and your analysis is set up in a way that you can only have the one layer,
and I would say you hit on a
then I
big
think it's
point.
harder to
It's the
harder to
software, it's the
argue.
structure
Yeah,
of the software that's the problem most of the time. Because a lot of
right.
times people are using softwares that don't allow for a custom field, or maybe they didn't know
If
they
only
could
there
set it
was a
up.
business out there that could help people with their
Leads and
technology
tech.
and tracking things in the way that they want to.
Yes.
And I mean, that would be really nice.
Um, so yeah,
Okay, so I have another. So I have
and we've
another
got 2 minutes because
another
then I'm
thing.
talking to Nick.
Okay, so lead origin. This is something that we track, and it's like it's separate from the source, but it's how did this person reach out to us? Okay,
The
so there's
first time.
Facebook form, there's website form, there's inbound phone call, and I'd have to pull it up to see the rest of the list. But that's an interesting layer to add in there too, because you see like your conversion ratio and close ratio, um,
Ooh,
based on those
on
origin types. So it could be email, it could be text, it could be the other three that I said. So as a marketing director, you're thinking, do I how do I want these people to reach out to me? Like, is a phone call as valuable as a text?
I like that. Yeah.
Right? Because then on a billboard, I might say, call me, or I might say, text me, or I might say, go visit my website, or,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So that's another, I think, actionable piece of data to.
And if you listen this far, down in the comment or in the description below, I will put a template of my lead sources and this information on the organic and paid and all that stuff. So you can have a jumping off point. I'll send you a Google Sheet with all that data. So claim that down below in the description. And if you want, you can always reach out to us at Boolean to chat more about this. But my name is Chris. This is Nathan. We're from Boolean, where we free you up to do what you love. And we'll see you in the next video.